a major blow at the border for President Biden. The Supreme Court ruling that Title 42, a controversial Trump-era border policy, will remain in place as legal challenges play out. It's a policy the Biden administration said it was ready to see end. Just minutes ago, President Biden reacted to the ruling.
The court is not going to decide until June, apparently, and in the meantime, we have to enforce it. But I think it's overdue.
But for now, the 5-4 ruling is a major victory for GOP-led states that asked the Supreme Court to step in, like Arizona, whose attorney general said he was, quote, proud to lead the charge on this important issue. The policy lets federal officials quickly expel migrants who cross the U.S. border illegally, and today's ruling means it will continue to take place for at least several more months. It was put in place during the beginning of the pandemic to stop the spread of COVID, but the White House did not want to keep the policy despite warnings from Homeland Security officials that lifting it could lead to disaster at the border. One source telling CNN DHS projected between 9,000 to 14,000 migrants would try to cross the southern border each and every day, more than double the current number of people crossing, according to a source familiar with those projections. The White House tonight also vowing to comply with the ruling, but urging Republicans to now work with Democrats on bipartisan immigration reform. We've got the story covered from all angles. Leila Santiago is near the border in El Paso, Texas, and Priscilla Alvarez is in Washington for us. We're going to start at the border with Leila. Leila, knowing that border officials have been warning of a massive surge of people coming over the border if the court allowed the removal of Title 42, what is the mood there tonight? What are you hearing?
Well, listen, as I've been speaking to the migrants themselves, I can't stop thinking about one mother who just repeated over and over in Spanish saying, this is bad, this is bad. She's from Venezuela, spent months trying to get up here and says she tried to cross legally but couldn't because of Title 44. Then you have the city officials who had some contingency plans in case this was lifted and expecting a large surge. They're actually still moving forward with some of those plans because they see what's on the other side of the border, which is a lot of migrants waiting. And then they're dealing with this. Take a look behind me. These are a lot of the migrants that have already crossed, and many of these migrants will not go to the shelters or get on a bus out of fear. They don't want to be moved because they don't know where they will go, even though El Paso city officials say they have the capacity right now to accommodate them. So many of them are here, and I'm seeing young men, I'm seeing older men, I'm seeing children, toddlers. One of the shelter organizers told me that he said that this decision by the Supreme Court will only extend the bottleneck that we see at the border right now and could create unsustainable pressure for law enforcement. So a lot of folks still sort of trying to make sense of what this will mean, but for the migrants themselves, it has really left them with a sense of uncertainty and fear. Sarah.
All right, thank you so much, Leila Santiago, there at the border in El Paso. Now let's go to CNN White House correspondent Priscilla Alvarez. Priscilla, what else are you hearing from the White House tonight? There is obviously a bit of disappointment.
That's right. And the White House says that they will comply with the order, but they're also pointing the finger at Congress. Let me just read part of that statement to you. They said, quote, Title 42 is a public health measure, not an immigration enforcement measure, and it should not be extended indefinitely. They later went on to say that today's order gives Republicans in Congress plenty of time to move past political finger pointing and join their Democratic colleagues in solving the challenge at our border by passing the comprehensive reform measures and delivering additional funds for border security that President Biden has requested. Now, Sarah, this is an issue that has vexed Congress for decades, and it is also one that has only grown more politically contentious over time. So any reform or attempt to overhaul the immigration system is going to be a challenge. In the meantime, though, the administration says they're going to move forward with their preparations in the event that, as you heard from President Biden, Title 42 ends next summer. The Department of Homeland Security also saying in a statement that migrants should not be listening to smugglers who may try to exploit the situation. Sarah.
All right. We have heard that there has been some exploiting going on for sure. Thank you so much. Out front now, Scott Jennings, former senior advisor to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and a CNN political commentator, and Stephanie Rollins Blake, former defense attorney and former Democratic mayor of Baltimore. Thank you both for being here.
Good evening.
Scott, I'll start with you. What's the big takeaway that you see coming out of this from the Supreme Court's decision?
Yeah, a few things, and thanks for having me on tonight. I think, number one, the Supreme Court, at least temporarily, saved Joe Biden from himself. I mean, his administration was in court arguing to end this. They even admitted in court, the Solicitor General admitted that lifting Title 42 will lead to disruption and a temporary increase in unlawful border crossings. And we already know we already have a massive number of people coming across anyway. So, the Supreme Court here did them a favor. Number two, big political win for the Republicans who run the states that challenge this. They see what the problem is and they wanted to keep this in place. So I think that was a good move politically for the Republicans here who are arguing for more border security. But number three, the real question is going to come next year. This is going to end. And at what point are all the federal policymakers going to help these states, these governors and these mayors who are dealing with this influx of people? It's really a federal issue. They have to secure the border. And I don't think the American people think everybody coming across there is a legitimate refugee, which is what the position of the Biden administration apparently is.
Mayor Rollins Blake, you think President Biden, as well as his predecessors, have really failed to solve the issue of immigration, and I suspect that includes Congress. Do you think this might help push two sides together, or is this going to be the same old when it comes to Republicans and Democrats in Congress?
I think when you listen to Scott and he talks about it being a big political win, that sort of tells you where we are. We're talking about people. We're talking about vulnerable populations, and too many leaders are still talking about whether or not we can, who can score political points. This is a time, a crisis that requires leaders to do what they are elected to do, and which is to lead in difficult circumstances. And we need more attention. This is a crisis. We need to see members of the Biden administration at the borders with mayors who are on the ground dealing with this issue day in and day out until some real comprehensive solutions can be found.
And to be fair, we have
By the way,
heard.
I totally agree with that last statement that we need to see the Biden administration at the border. Neither the president nor the vice president has visited the border. They have not offered the kind of support to the Border Patrol. In fact, they have attacked in the past Border Patrol agents who were doing their job. So I totally agree. I do think we need to see Biden and Kamala Harris and other officials down there admitting that they have told the American people a bunch of falsehoods. They've said the border is secure. That's not true. The White House press secretary has said, oh, people are just, it's not like they walk across. That's not true. It's been dishonest statements after dishonest statements, and they've never even visited to see this crisis. So I agree with that.
Okay, so you both agree on something. Scott, I want to get quickly to reading some of what the White House response to this ruling is. And in part, they say, quote, today's order gives Republicans in Congress plenty of time to move past political finger pointing and join their Democratic colleagues in solving the challenge at our border by passing the comprehensive reform measures and delivering the additional funds for border security that President Biden has requested. I know myself from talking to lawmakers on the ground there, some of the council members in El Paso, they've said that they're not seeing those federal funds. They need the federal funds to deal with the influx of people. Why can't Republicans and Democrats seem to come together? Is it because we are seeing the edges of both parties keeping reform from happening, keeping major reform from happening?
Well, I think there's a fundamental deep disagreement between both parties on who should be able to come across and claim legitimate refugee status. It appears that the left and the Biden administration thinks everybody should come and we should just do the paperwork faster. And the Republicans, I think, want to slow this down and say, wait a minute, what we really need to focus on is more resources to actually secure the border. Case in point, the other day, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey literally took shipping containers and tried to build a wall on the Arizona border in the Yuma Gap. And the Biden administration sued him and made him take it down. So I think the fundamental disagreements on priorities here, Republicans for border security, the Biden administration says, come on in. That's a big divide. And I have a hard time seeing how bipartisan solutions will happen when you've got such fundamental disagreements on the policy.
But Scott, I think it's a bit disingenuous to say that the Biden administration is saying, come on in. There are still border agents there. They are still trying to do their job. And what they're seeing is a huge influx of people who are trying to come in, and they'll do it any way that they can. Mayor Rollins Blake, just curious about your response to what you heard from Scott there and what you heard from the Biden administration itself.
You know, every day the Republican Party sends out its talking points on all the news of the day. The Democratic Party does the same thing. I get it. I get it. There are positions that, we're supposed to take to say, that that there's a fundamental disagreement. Of course, there's a disagreement. But there's a lot of things that I'm sure that if we sat down, we could agree on. But until the leaders who are elected are willing to not worry about who gets the blame, not worry about who gets the credit, and try to help these people who deserve better, we're going to be stuck.